Alex Lawson is on the line with us. He is the executive director of Social Security Works, socialsecurityworks.org. Apparently at midnight this morning, or midnight Monday night, however you want to say it, both John Boehner and the president's office and the White House got together on a deal, which is at least an early draft of it is printed over at the New York Times today. And we'll see where this thing goes. Alex, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Thanks for joining us. Socialsecurityworks.org is Alex's website, FYI. I read in the New York Times this morning that this budget deal would include cuts to Social Security and Medicare, almost like they had to write that to prevent Republicans from freaking out. But then I'm reading on some of the conservative sites that it doesn't cut Social Security and Medicare, and therefore the conservatives and the Republicans are really PO'd. And then I've seen so many different stories about this. What's the real story here with this budget deal?
It's a complicated one, Tom, and I think you're one of the few people who can explain it well to your listeners, so I'm really happy to be talking with you about it. Like many things in D.C., actually, let me put it this way. Nancy Altman, the president of Social Security Works, she said in a statement that when hostage takers release their hostages, you experience relief. You're relieved. You don't celebrate it, and you don't celebrate that the ransom isn't steeper. And I think that's the best kind of metaphor for what's going on here.
Right.
You had these Republicans who were holding both the debt ceiling, actually they were holding the debt ceiling, the budget, so the operation of the government, and holding a 20% benefit cut for all Social Security beneficiaries receiving disability insurance. And what this deal has done is actually released all of those hostages. So we are generally relieved at that. And when you delve into it, you know, what price did the Republicans demand for this? And we've been fighting this battle for years, as you know, so I know what they have previously demanded. Huge cuts, right? Structural changes to Social Security and Medicare that would have been disastrous for millions of people, real people, cruel policies that are also stupid because they'd end up costing money in the long run. We don't see those in this deal. I don't know if you want to go into the weeds of what is actually in here.
Let me describe for you my understanding of the weeds in kind of plain English, and there's and you can tell me if I've got this right, and fill it in. There are basically two Social Security operations, shall we call it? There's one Social Security trust fund that didn't even exist when Social Security was created, and these two Social Security functions, one we could call the retirement function and the other we could call the disability function. And they operate out of two different pools of money that both come from the same tax, the Social Security tax, and are both cycled through the same Social Security trust fund. And every year or two or three, there's, at the end of the day, at the end of the budget cycle or whatever you call it, there's too much money in one fund and not enough in the other. And so Congress has to pass an approval, basically, to move money from one fund to the other to balance the two funds out. It doesn't raise anybody's taxes. It doesn't cut anybody's benefits. But if they didn't do that, one or the other of the funds would run out of money. And the disability fund was on its way to running out of money in about 2 years or about a year and a half. And so when Congress opened this year, the Republicans in the House of Representatives created a new rule that prevented anybody basically but them from equalizing these two things during this 2-year Congress, which was setting up a battle for next fall, right around election time, about whether or not that 20% cut in Social Security disability would happen. And what this deal does is it says, okay, we're going to balance these two accounts. We're going to stop, we're going to let go of that hostage. Do I have that right or even close to right?
That's totally right. The only thing I'd add is that although there's two trust funds, they operate seamlessly as one system. There's there are no two systems, and the Republicans saw an opportunity to do their favorite thing, which is divide and conquer. They wanted to pretend that there were two Social Security systems, but there's only one.
Right.
And everything else you said laid it out exactly right. They saw a very routine and necessary function of government as an opportunity to take that routine and necessary function, hold it hostage, and demand cruel and stupid ideological policies, which in this case are deep cuts to Social Security. But they did not get those in this deal. And so that is, that's something that is an important thing to note.
But that also means that all day today is Tuesday, they're going to have a vote on this tomorrow. All day today, Right Wing Hate Radio and Fox So-Called News are probably going to be beaten on Boehner and on the Republicans to the point where they might be afraid to. Although Boehner will, I have a feeling he's just going to say to his Republican, the hard right Republicans, particularly the Koch caucus, the so-called Koch Freedom Caucus, he's just going to tell them to go screw themselves.
I think that's I think that's what the deal is actually that. It's in words. It's him telling that part of the caucus that have been the hostage takers that on his way out the door, he is going to...
he's going to free the hostages.
He's going to free all the hostages on his way out. Right. And there's not much they can do about it.
Yeah. Now, this is not... this isn't a wonderful budget. This isn't... this doesn't address many of the problems that our country is facing, particularly our infrastructure problems, and it doesn't do anything to solve long-term, relatively minor, but nonetheless real problems with Social Security and Medicare that could be easily fixed with, literally single-page pieces of legislation. It does none of that, but it basically preserves the status quo until after the new president is sworn in. So it's basically the next Congress and the next president are the ones that are going to have to deal with all this stuff. Do I have that right?
You do. I think there's one additional thing there that's an important one that I don't want to overstate it, but I think it is important. The reason that the cuts aren't in there is because we've spent years, the progressive community, the Social Security community, years fighting against and making cuts toxic. We've spent years fighting to expand Social Security, and everyone on the Hill knows that expanding Social Security is incredibly popular across ideological lines. The reason there are no cuts is because we organized and we raised our voices. Right. And now we have a great opportunity to really focus on the solutions, like you said. Instead of the crises, we're going to focus on the solutions, like expanding Social Security. Right,
and lifting the cap to pay for it. Exactly. Very straightforward stuff. Alex Lawson, Executive Director of Social Security Works, the website socialsecurityworks.org. The Twitter, ALaw202, and at Social Security, or at SSWorks. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Tom.